recorded in our studios in Montreal. You're listening to the Tribute Game podcast. Tribute Games is a company where we make retro-inspired video games, and this podcast is pretty much the discussions that we have while we make those games, or just it's like you're in the video game minds with us, and it's a whole lot of fun, hopefully. So I'm Yannick Belzil. I'm the writer for the games, and as well I'm the social media manager.
I'm Dom 2D. I'm a game designer.
Justin Sear, animator, game designer.
Stéphane Doutin, artiste.
I'm Carl Kerschel. I'm a comic book artist who works upstairs.
Yes. Guys, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
Pretty good?
Yeah.
Nice.
We just had a lot of fat food, so we're all really comfortable.
We don't have time for that, Dom. We have to go to the dev corner.
Jeez.
You've cornered him.
Yes. That's your job, Steph. Yeah. You got to do the jingles.
Yeah.
That's a dev corner jingle.
Yo, so in the dev corner, we just talk about what we've actually been working on this week and how our sausages get made. So not our actual sausages, just sausages in general. The sausages that are video games.
Why don't we just start over?
No, I think this is great.
That was beautiful.
I think that's great. Justin, you're working.
Just to be clear, they never saw my sausage.
No,
Nobody here have ever
we're
seen
not talking about body sausages or meat sausages. We're talking about video game sausages.
Dev sausage.
Dev sausage.
So how's the sausage going?
Yeah,
It's
how's
going?
the Curses and Chaos sausage going?
Going great. I think when I last left you, I was sort of bottlenecking all of the production, and I'm happy to report progress is going smoothly. So yeah, I had a lot of assets because John just got into a frenzy and did I think about a dozen enemies. So I had to work on levels, and I think when you're in development, it's really important to pace yourself, because when you're coming out of a bottleneck, it's kind of overwhelming and you want to do everything at once. So I just had to sort of maintain a pretty steady rhythm.
And what is it that you're doing? Again, is it so far? I think we talked about it last time, but I think you split your mornings in half. In the morning, you actually create sprites for the games. I think we have 30 enemies in Curses and Chaos. We talked at lunch, something like that. So
and because I have dual roles, I do animation and level design and game design. Actually, that's 3 roles. So got a lot of hats, but that's how I figured it would be best to sort of split my work, is to do some animation in the morning, sort of get a nice warm up, and then in the afternoon do level design, which there is a lot that needed to get done. But I think I plowed through all of the village levels. That doesn't mean anything to anybody, but it's a good chunk of work done. So
why do you break up animation in the morning and then design in the afternoon? I mean, I'm only asking because personally, I feel like my brain is more functional in the morning, so the design portion would be better done then, and then the animation stuff is kind of more mindless. Not that it's mindless, obviously, but it's more grunt work.
Yeah, no, it's that's actually a good question. I think for me, because I'm really comfortable doing animation, it's a nice sort of thing to sort of ease into, and it's something I like doing. So it's kind of easier to warm up to it. And then in the afternoon, doing the level design stuff, that requires a lot more concentration. So I have to sort of be very mentally alert at that stage and do it very systematically. So just for me personally, that's how I kind of like to break it down.
Probably has to do with lunch as well. You spend a smaller portion of your day in the morning working on animation, then you go lunch. Yeah. And then you have the whole afternoon to concentrate on something else. Start a new task. Yeah. Coming back from lunch.
And then John arrives at work.
Yeah, we're actually, because we're an independent studio, we have the luxury of coming in when we want to, and we're on a very European schedule.
All of Montreal is on the European schedule.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't know what is a European schedule, what is it?
Well, it's a nice way of saying we're kind of lazy. No, it's
we're late bloomers.
Yeah, because there's a 6-hour time difference, so we start our days much later, but we finish a lot later too. So a standard day would be for us not 9 to 5, but something like 10 to 7. That's probably an average work day. So yeah, the small portion of what's left in the AM hours gets done for just what little animation's left to do, and then in the afternoon it's
but that's
levels.
Just right now, because you've gone through most of the animation.
Yeah.
So you don't have much left. So.
Yeah, that's true, and and a lot of it doesn't need to get done. It's a lot of touch up work too. So for me, it's oh, good, I get to just do this small thing really well.
I went through all of them, like, just now, because I was trying to find interesting enemies to put in the intro.
Do they seem finished to you, or are there parts where do you give notes back and say this could use more frames, or this needs something?
But I want to put it on record that I think the sorceress is really amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
is that the Disco Sorceress? The one that raises his...
No. I don't know the name of this one. Like the brown magician guy.
Yeah.
He does spells.
Yeah.
He does that kind of Saturday Night Fever motion.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It was fun to make that. Thank you. It's nice to make the little 16 by 16 style sprites, and don't go super frame heavy with them, but I think the animation's pretty good for what they are. So.
What are you using? Photoshop?
Yeah, it's a little bit overkill for what we need to do. It's just that's all we've ever known.
Yeah, it's all I know. I've done very little animation, but
I
know Photoshop, and it's clear to me how.
There used to be a time where you could just fire up the old Image Ready that came with Photoshop, and it was just much more simple, because maybe you draw your basic sprite in Photoshop, and then you would put it in Image Ready, line up a bunch of frames, just draw stuff in Image Ready, and when it left, even though they just pretty much
merged them together,
yeah, it just doesn't feel the same. It feels like I'm using too much software for this small, tiny thing.
It is pretty amazing, though, the animation features that you can... This is getting really nerdy, though.
No, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear.
You can do a lot in the animation features of Photoshop now. Like, you can import sounds and, export whole movies and stuff.
Yeah, they kind of merge. They implemented the simplified After Effects timeline.
Yeah, I've used the timeline. I didn't know you could do audio.
Yeah. It's
really simplified.
If you wanted to make like a small movie, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
I actually did the intro.
No kidding.
That way.
Yeah, that's right.
Huh. The mock intro that you done?
Which will eventually lead to the finished one too, so it'll probably all get done within Photoshop. So
it looks great.
Yeah. And I got, for pixel art, I think a lot of people use, graphic scale or GIMP or, ProMotion, that's the other one. But, it kind of made me feel, very relieved when I knew that, Jonathan Kim and Mariel Cartwright use,
Who are those people?
Those are people that we worked with on Scott Pilgrim, who are now at Lab Zero doing Skullgirls.
Yes.
And they use Photoshop to animate too, so for me that was like a
Yes, and their stuff is way more intensive than any of our pixel animation. It's not even high-res pixel. It's really...
It's hard,
It's hand-drawn hard.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
One day I'm going to come in and just watch over your shoulders while you're animating in Photoshop. Because I've done a very, very little bit of it, and I'm always kind of... I understand how it works, but every time and I'm sure there's an easy way around this. Every time I change something in one of the keyframes of the first frame, it kind of makes a change across across a dozen frames. I'm
the worst feature.
Yeah, but I'm sure you can probably turn that off, right?
Yeah, or there's workarounds.
Yeah, but it's still
come and watch.
Too complicated for.
We could and probably should have Justin stream an enemy design or something.
Sure, yeah. I should do a Twitch of that.
Yeah,
for sure.
When I first discovered, and this was maybe 2 years ago, I first found out that you could Google image search and find entire sprite maps. Games.
Yeah.
I went crazy.
Yeah.
I felt like I had found some sort of Capone's vault, and I just started hoarding.
Yeah.
Downloading all these sprite maps and hoarding.
Surely people will know.
Yeah, someone's going to figure out this is live and take it down.
Yeah. I kind of miss the days because people used to use more animated GIFs. They'd rip them and make them into animated
some
GIFs.
People still do.
Yeah.
But you could do that with the maps.
That's right, yeah. But there's some really good sites for that too, Spriter's Resource.
Yeah, there's just one that's called VJ Sprites, I think. But I remember that's my earlier career as a pixel artist in video games. That's pretty much how I learned to pixel art, was just finding those sprite sheets, blowing them up and in my screen and having them. You open your Photoshop, you have one window, or you have even 7 windows that are different sprite sheets. Then you draw your own, and you just have a laser focus on the. This is a convoluted way of telling us you're tracing people's sprites.
No,
yes, exactly, and I got away with it until then. But
he's building upon them, right? That's how.
It's more to realize how a detail was boiled down to a specific matrix of squares.
Yeah, of course. And that's how you learn. I mean, even pixel. I haven't done much pixel art either, but just down to the amount of like, you know, like fake dithering and blending. I mean, some people do none of it and some people go crazy with that stuff.
Someone even had a really good tutorial on like how to have a dithered brush so that you don't actually have to go in and do it all yourself. It actually just in like big broad strokes paints like very precise like dithering for gradients in pixel art. It's pretty nuts.
Curses doesn't really have dithering in the characters.
No, but I mean, for such tiny sprites, it would be kind of lost. Maybe in some of the backgrounds. Did you do much dithering? No, you just actually...
I don't like dithering.
You know, but I mean, you masterful use of color, so he doesn't really need to, so... But, I don't know, Paul's...
But the resolution doesn't really...
Permit it.
Yeah. It's kind of... Because... And the fact that it's going to get, like, blown 4 times on the screen... Yeah. It really...
gets lost and muddy.
It feels like you're adding noise or details instead of actually creating a gradient or something like that. It's like the resolution is just too small.
Like one thing, like, again, like looking at those sprites, I realize is how like Capcom's Street Fighter sprites and how little color they actually use. Like when you see move on the screen, you think, oh, it uses the whole rainbow of colors, but as you look at it, like Ken's Gi just has like three shades of red in it. There's maybe 4. And the 4th one is a highlight, but the rest it's just like 3 or 4 shades of red. The whole thing, you can suggest so much with so few colors, and then that's one of the main things that you would learn when you just look at those sprites from up close, and then you.
It's a really different approach as well, like doing pixel art for something that's going to be displayed on a big screen, like a television, and for small handheld devices. Like
did you change the way you drew? Because I've learned it for small, tiny, non-smartphones.
And dithering and anti-aliasing work better for those, but it becomes like it doesn't create the same effect because you use those for really small scale stuff. So that it looks like colors are blending together, but when it gets blown really big, it doesn't have the same effect. Like it becomes
muddy.
Yeah, it noisy. Like it really, you don't get the same blending effect as you get on small screens. So, like most of I first noticed that looking at NES games, like when you have like big cutscenes. Most of them no dithering at all, no anti-aliasing, just because it doesn't look as good, doesn't create the effect that it creates.
Yeah, and it's neat too because like the transition from 8-bit to 16-bit, the people that had like a really good grasp of color, they didn't actually use more colors. Like again, characters from Street Fighter have maybe 2-3 colors per sprite, but maybe more shades of the same color. Like Ryu's pretty much just white, skin tones and a red bandana, but that's still just 3 colors.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not just like having more colors is a better thing. It's like how you use them.
I think it works on GBA games more because, like, I've been playing a lot of old GBA games, and there's oftentimes like full illustrations that are like super dithered, but then it's such a small screen that it doesn't matter. But like you said, it's when you put it on TV that it messes everything up.
Oh yeah, I think back then on GBA they went crazy for it because suddenly they could do it on a. Suddenly they had color, and they like if you look at some of the the reward screens and the and the Metroid games, like all those different beauty shots of Samus in her bathing suit, and there's a crazy galaxy behind her. It's always crazy dithering and Photoshop effects.
Yeah, I've been playing Metroid Fusion, and some of the cutscenes are like part of the game where you see the other Samus like breaking through a wall, and it cuts to like a full picture of the image, but it's like super dithered and not super good looking, but it's still pretty good.
I think some of the better like pixel art dithered graphics are stuff from like the Amiga days and like more like old PC. Like I don't know if you know this company, Bitmap Brothers. I think they're now defunct. They worked on like Gods and what was it called? Soldiers of Fortune. Oh, that was the American name. It was the Chaos Engine. I mean, I don't think you can come up with a better name than the Chaos Engine.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, and
I think you're biased.
Yeah, I'm a little bit biased, but their stuff's really good. They have like a very, again, sort of, I use it too often, but masterful use of dithering. So I think for like PC and old Amiga stuff, you'll find some really good stuff. Trying to remember his name now. Hank Nyborg. He's a really good artist too.
Who's that?
He's, again, I think some European, which area of Europe, I'm not sure, but from way back when. He, again, did stuff on like Amiga, maybe not so far back as Commodore 64, but you look at his stuff and it's just like crazy how much detail he puts into it. But again, with a very, very limited palette. So if you can, check out Hank Nyborg's stuff. His art rules.
I will.
Yeah.
Let's close out this pixel talk because we have a lot of pixel artists around the table. Do you have a specific tip for someone who might be in pixel art or might want to try or learn it right now? Like just a tip you have about pixel art from the top of your head right now.
Don't.
You know what? He's right. Don't. There's so few of us.
No, I suggest reading Derek Hughes' tutorial on how to do pixel art. You can find it on I think it's something how to make games.tumblr.com or something like that. It's the creator of Spelunky who did a really helpful tutorial.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's like you have access to just about all the sprites from any game you've ever liked. So
that's true. I just look at those and see what they did and how they simplified shapes and highlights and colors. So that would be my main one.
Actually, I think a really good tip too is if you're doing sprites and things. Like, if you want to try and match the style of a sprite to a game, like, work on a sprite and then import it into a screenshot. If you see that it looks like it belongs in the game, you're probably on the right track. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good exercise to do because I see a lot of people, they do sprites and idols and things, but then in context, it doesn't look as good. And I think another tip I could give, maybe specifically for animators, is do more than idle and attack. That's actually probably a bigger part of working as a professional is you have to do so much more than like the fun stuff. In fact, I think being a professional is more about doing all of the work that's needed. And of course you need that stuff, but you see far too often people doing like just the idle and the attack.
But what would you call the bad stuff, like the boring stuff?
Like get hit 1, get hit 2, fall down, get up. The stuff, and for some people that's probably fun too, but, show like the whole gamut of what a character's actions are. Yeah. Because if you look again, like maybe just like a sprite sheet from something like Street Fighter, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, it's like 3 different taunts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's fun to show more than just, at least if nothing else, do more than idle and attack because, I think being a professional means doing a lot of the work, especially the stuff that you don't necessarily feel like doing all the time.
Would you recommend for someone who starts to begin with small small characters, like maybe 8x8 or 16x16, or would you say that it's better to start with something?
I don't know. I think I think personally I like smaller sprites because you can do a lot more work faster. But it also requires like a different sort of like mindset. Mm-hmm. So if someone's more whatever's you're most comfortable with, I mean, you shouldn't always work within your comfort zone, but for someone starting, work to your strengths and you try and bring up your weaknesses as much as you can. I think that's the best advice I could give.
You always start with something you think you can finish because the most important thing when you try to you want to do art or stuff like that, do something that you'll finish and then you move on to another thing or a newer thing.
Okay. So I'll do for the first time and I'll do sprites for a whole MMO with like 400 characters.
If you can finish it, yes.
Okay.
Yes, you should.
Yeah. I think if nothing else, maybe don't have just like one big showpiece. Because if you do like this character that has like this amazing animation, you're going to want to show the next thing you can do. So it's like, if that took you a month, good luck. Cause, you're going to have a pretty bad year.
Yeah, you could have maybe in the meantime do many more less ambitious characters, but you could have one who's crouching, who's jumping, or who just goes through a different cycle of animation, something like that.
That's why I thought you were going to say that making smaller characters is easier at first because you get to finish them faster and move on to...
For me, that's totally it. But for somebody else, maybe working in a larger... Because I think, Steph, you like working on larger resolutions and like larger sizes?
I don't know. It depends.
What did you start with?
Well, I was going to say earlier that probably working on smaller pieces would be more useful for someone who wants to learn pixel art because all the constraints will be there. Like you'll have to go through all of them. Yeah. Every obstacle you'll encounter doing pixel art, you're going to have to master them at a smaller resolution. So that's probably better. I started doing pixel on the Game Boy Advance team at Ubisoft, and I learned a lot of stuff doing so. not only pixel art stuff, but also like color, because you learn all the relation between colors really fast, because the end product of pixel is always clean.
Yeah.
So you can play with colors really, really fast and learn their relation together, like just contrast, or like doing a metal pipe with only 2 or 3 pixel. You learn stuff there. That's really important. So there's a way to place pixel to do certain shapes. So if you work smaller, like you'll have to go learn those quicker than if you do a really big piece. And like the bigger you go, the less it matters.
It almost becomes more like drawing after a certain point, a cutoff. Yeah.
But like having tried to do pixel art a couple times, it feels like almost like you're learning a language, like some curves and some shapes. Like you need to figure out how to make them appear.
You learn your
shortcuts.
Your stairs.
Yeah.
How
like
much
the
of this
stair
curve
effect
can be flat and how many have
Yeah.
to be...
Yeah, exactly. Like that's something you actually learn. Like it's something they're trying to get rid of in video games. The higher resolution you get, like they put filters and stuff like that. But doing pixel, that's something you actually have to learn and master.
Yeah, I remember because my career started off. I was doing porting work, so a phone that had the screen that's like 2 stamps, and there's one great point on my career where we were doing this strip poker game, which was called Sexy Poker. The first one was 2003. The second one was in 2004.
Sexy poker.
Very sexy, and it was like these anime ladies, but for the smallest resolution. First, who gets excited about a really small resolution naked anime lady? Like, there's barely any details at that point.
Well, you're at the wrong table for that question.
If the way a lady would be drawn, like the way her head would be tilted or angled, there was no way you could render that.
I don't know. That sounds like a challenge.
Next week.
I did not meet that challenge, and then her face looked really weird because at one point, because of the stairs and how the curves has to be done and diagonals, it don't look like anything anymore.
Yeah, I remember that reminds me of like my first week when I worked at Gameloft. This was weird. I'm gonna have to try and condense this as much as I can.
I'm sure you can.
So, Gameloft at that point had just gone through like a restructuring phase. Like it had gone, I think, up to like 400 people and then back down to 10. So when I started, it was like me, John, and 10 other guys. And can I do some name dropping here? Christophe Desrein, who's like one of the top tier guys at Ubisoft Montreal.
I just met him.
Did you?
I think.
Under one... Oh, because you do contract work for Ubisoft.
I do. Maybe I didn't meet him. I might be thinking of someone else. I know his name, though.
Yeah. No, but...
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, well, he's one of the top brass at UB Montreal. And
we get it.
Okay. So he was the studio manager at the time. And
wait, is that what you call condensing a story?
No, I'm doing a bad job of it. But
Yannick will do that later on.
Yeah, he's good with the editing. And we were working on a solitaire game, so I was just working on some like card dealer. And he came by and he said about the face I was working on, because you were talking about faces. He says, "Quoi, ça a l'air d'un museau de chien," which translates to, "Wow, she looks like she has a dog's face."
What did you say?
Nothing. I was just like, you asshole. Internally, of course. But I mean, there's nothing like your boss coming up to you and saying, that girl's face looks like a dog, and just walking off.
Did you know what you were working on? I mean, you could.
Oh yeah. He knew. He didn't give a shit. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Yes, I just remembered also a great moment in my career that's sexy poker related is when we had.
Go on.
Which one? The game, 2003. Yeah. The original installment. Right. And, because for the, an American version, because games had to go through phone carriers at the time. They had to be vetted by phone carriers back then. They could not have full nudity in the games. So when the ladies would get naked, even though they were cartoon ladies, we needed to censor their private parts and their nipples.
It just said sexy instead of the actual breasts.
Exactly. But we had to censor it with pixelation. So,
like a mosaic?
like a mosaic. So
the nipple was probably like 1 pixel already.
it was like it was like a 4x4 pixel square anyway. But then I had to redraw pixelation on top of it. So
bigger pixel.
Yeah, bigger pixel. So I was destroying the fine work that was already done. And then I'm like carrying that off to different levels, to different shapes. I'm like, this is a great career I'm having. Like, pixelating crotches.
Amazing job.
And then going from a not so great job to a great job. Dom, what's up with your prototype this week?
My prototype. Yeah, we've been trying a few things with the core mechanic.
Let's say so. This is the first episode someone ever listens to. First, great choice. Thanks for joining us on the Tribute Games podcast. But you're working on a platformer prototype. Type of game.
Our next big game, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's still very much super early, and we don't really know where we're going with it. But
how many weeks has this been prototyping, and you've been working on it?
Like 2 or 3.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah. So we're just looking for the one mechanic that's fun and interesting, and I think we have something really good. Like I've been designing levels for it just to see how it plays, thinking about enemies and power-ups and stuff like that. And we're at a point where we're pretty happy with it. We're also thinking about the look of it and the setting for the game. Mm-hmm. So I've been looking at a lot of other platformers and see what works. I've been watching a lot of sci-fi movies, so maybe it's gonna be sci-fi. Who knows? Mm. And I think next week we're probably gonna start like drafting more visual stuff. Like I did a mock-up this week, but it was like
brainstorm. It's gonna be a brainstorm marathon. Next week, watching movies and
should be fun.
Taking notes.
Yeah. Well, that's what's fun with working with Dom. Like everybody else here, he's very like multi-talented. So because you've only done like design stuff so far, that's sometimes not easy to illustrate.
Yeah. Especially since we're using, like we said last week, Mercenary Kings sprites.
Assets. Yeah. Like the prototype, it's very fun, but it still feels like a mod of Mercenary Kings. So I really can't wait to see, because that's what, you did that mock-up in like a day.
Yeah.
So when he came in, there was nothing, and then by the end of the day, there was a very fleshed out mock-up of what it could look like. Mm-hmm. And it was just amazing, because it's like, again, something that, you know is probably going to have a very big impact on like the later part of the game. So
yeah, it was fun to have something to show. I think you guys are suddenly more interested in the game also when I show that, because it's like, we're not doing just an army game again. And
yeah. Like we can all use our imagination, but everyone, it becomes more real once you see those and new assets.
Even making it, like making the mock-up, like you saw the kind of the design logo that I put in there, and the characters and stuff and the colors. You can already kind of think about those things and discover new things as you're doing the mock-up. And next week it's gonna be amazing how fast it's gonna grow, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Leaps and bounds.
So yeah, it's fun. We're having fun.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
What about your dev corner?
No, I'm not developing anything right now.
Wow.
Actually, I am. That's not true. I'm working on my
card game.
I'm working on my first. Actually, there are no cards in it anymore.
Oh no,
that's good.
There are, but it's
radical overhaul.
I realized that it's a radical. I've done. Not even being facetious. I've done, like, on my commutes and lying in bed, I do a lot of thinking about this.
Yeah, of course.
And it's I realized that the actual card. I didn't want to design a card game. Mm-hmm. And the card stuff in it was not really relevant to the actual mechanic of it. And so it's, I've sort of whittled it down to what I think is kind of a core mechanic, which I'll tell you about it later. But right now I don't have any time because I've been crazy busy, but I want to, cause it's just me working on it, and I don't, I've never done this before. I want to I have just like a mental list of things to work on. And the first thing is to take what I showed you and actually refine the mechanic into something that feels good. And then from there, everything else is kind of just trappings, So that's what I'm kind of sort of brainstorming now.
Any comics?
Any comics that I'm developing? Yeah. Yeah. I got I spent the last few days refining the first issue of Gotham Academy, because we had like 2 different guys working on the colors, and then I had to pitch in and help out, and everything went in last night, and then they added the final lettering files, and now we have the final PDF of the first
And when you talk about refining, like what is it that you do? You draw something? Or?
I'd drawn the whole issue. Like that was all done, right? But there were things that, because they went to Romain in France and he painted all the backgrounds and he was doing everything, but then first of all, I should preface it by saying the look of Gotham Academy, the way we've approached it, which is kind of like doing an animated film. Right, it's painted backgrounds and kind of flat, cel-shaded characters on the front, and it is a completely unfeasible thing to do in monthly comics.
It looks like it might be hard to sustain.
It looks ridiculous thing to do on a monthly schedule. But I've always wanted. I just love that art style. I've always wanted to do something like that, and we had the resources and I actually got the colors I wanted.
It's like a Gothic cathedral.
Yeah,
in every battle.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But so what happened inevitably was that our colorist got behind, and then we had to bring in another colorist to just do the characters, and then he had very short notice, and because this series is like all new characters, there's nowhere to go for reference, and no one knows what the end result is supposed to look like except for me. He did what he does, and then I got all these pages back, and they were, like the characters were like the wrong colors here and there, or like some stuff had been rushed in the backgrounds, or needed to be unified or tweaked, and I had to add posters to the like dorm room walls and stuff I wanted on this person's shirt, like all that stuff. I spent 3 days just finishing, and then playing with color levels to make sure the foregrounds and backgrounds were, looked unified.
Had you done like color studies or?
No, I did. The first thing I did was a bunch of character designs and a palette, so they're just like eyedropper colors from the characters. And I said, this is the color of Olive's shirt, and this is what her skin color is and her hair. And but colorists are, that's fine. Like what in comics, what they'll do is like they go through a stage called flatting, which means that traditionally comics, when you're not painting the backgrounds, which is usually the case, right? Like they'll do a complete pass on the page that is just flat colors. And it doesn't have to be the correct colors. It's just flatting all the colors so that it separates.
Just like blocking it out almost?
Blocking it out so that you can easily go in and select stuff and refine, and say, okay, I'm just going to select all the skin tones now and shade those. Right? But because these guys are like painters, he went in there and just started rendering stuff based on the room light. Oh. Right? So he wasn't really using the palette I gave him. He was just like, well, this sky is sunset, so I'm going to color these characters which is a completely correct way to approach it.
Yeah.
Except that it's
time consuming.
It's time consuming, and it destroys the painted versus flat animated kind of look. So I had to say, and also he only speaks French and is and lives in France, so he's in a different time zone. No, it was just hard to communicate. So he'd be working, I'd get a bunch of stuff from him at 6 a.m. and be like, I wouldn't see it until later and communicate with him. And anyway, it's all getting kind of smoothed out now. And now that we have a first finished issue, I think I can just make it look like this. Yeah. I don't have to try to communicate.
There's a precedence now. And okay.
Are you satisfied with it?
Yeah, I'm thrilled with it. I was kind of out of my head with fatigue and frustration for 3 days, but then when I got the finished PDF this morning, I almost cried.
We were lucky enough to have a glimpse at it, and it feels super rich. Like it shows that you guys have spent way more time and energy on the backgrounds and the colors and everything.
That, and I think hopefully, at least to me, even though I've seen it a million times, it feels like it is rich. It is world rich. Yeah. It feels like the characters, the places existed and people have lives that have existed before that story started, which is really all you can hope for.
Yeah, it felt, it's a first issue and it's a good introduction to the world, but it does not exactly feel like a first issue because it feels like those characters have existed for a while.
Yeah, they all have histories.
It's not that new. And also, one thing that is really important about it is that Professor Milo is in this.
With his taxiderms.
With his crazy... Professor Milo is a pretty obscure Batman character. He has a bowl haircut. He appeared 2 or 3 times in animated series as well. It's where I know the character, and I've spotted him there, and I know he's from the 50s or something. created animals, something.
Yeah, he was kind of like the Dr. Moreau of the Batman world.
Yeah, exactly. So like, Professor Milo is in this.
There's so many obscure characters. Like, actually, the woman who, in the cafeteria, who reprimands the one kid is
Mrs. Harriet.
Harriet from the Batman 60s TV show.
Nice.
Yeah,
Did they give you lists of?
No, we gave them lists and said, like, we want to use all these weird characters, and they were like, okay. No one else is using. Like, the second issue has a really weird character.
Nice.
I'll show you guys that one later.
Yeah, I hope it's Haunted Tank because
it's another Batman TV show character.
Oh, okay. Well, sadly they didn't.
So when can we expect the Gotham Academy tribute game?
As soon as you, I'll put you in touch with DC licensing. But wait and see if it sells well first before you get get on that ship.
When's the populace going to have access to that first issue?
October 1st. Really soon.
Yeah, it's perfect for Halloween as well. It's a cool mystery, right on the edge of fun horror, all ages of horror. It looks like it's going to go into.
It gets pretty dark, actually.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Justin, you have a topic for us.
Indeed, I do. I was thinking about, is it better to finish a game to have like a full appreciation for it? Thinking about like the differences between like games and movies and stuff, where like you wouldn't watch a trailer for a movie and say like, oh, this movie's good or bad.
Or just watch 15 minutes and go like, this was pretty good.
Exactly. But it seems like a lot of people do. Like they'll only play the first few minutes of a game, but have something to say about it. So I don't know. Do you feel like it's important to have to finish a game to have a fuller opinion of it?
I'd say that for a reviewer, it's really important, like for someone who wants to talk about it. But for people, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Especially these days when games are super long and like a lot of it is just the same kind of combat or action. Like I don't think you need to finish it. For me, it's more the opposite. It's when I finish a game is a good proof that it's good.
Yeah.
It was actually sorry?
I was going to say just the fact that you finished it.
Yeah.
You put the time in.
Yeah. It was actually a big issue for us with Mercenary Kings when it came out. The reviewers, most of them, it was obvious they'd only played like a couple missions, and then they were basing their whole review on those first few missions, and they were pointing out problems or flaws, or putting stuff as flaws when it was something that would have evolved or.
Like something I've heard a lot concerning Mercenary Kings was a lot of people.
Reload system.
Yeah.
And only 5 bullets.
Exactly. They complain about
that's
it.
your first gun.
That's your first gun. So they don't get into the crafting of it until they've played much longer. And once they get into the crafting of it, they're like, oh, now I get it. I make a more powerful gun and now the game is easier. It's way better. It's easier to go through and stuff like that. But for some people, it just takes a really long time to get to it, even though the first 3 missions are save your knife crafter and your gun crafter. So obviously now these people are there.
I'd say also the first gun you make is a big milestone in the game. The first time you actually try like a rifle or a shotgun, it really opens up your mind. It's like, whoa, okay.
I feel like it's a fair complaint, though. Like, I haven't worked on it, so I can be a little less biased. I feel it's a fair complaint, especially these days when there's hundreds of games coming out every week these days, and you will buy a game and try it for an hour, because if it's not good after an hour, you can put it in the pile of not so good games.
Yeah, sure. But that's what I mean. Like it felt like they didn't even play an hour.
Yeah, well, that's
the complaints they were making were part of the first like 2-3 missions. So maybe like top half an hour.
So that's why I said reviewers should do the whole game, because it's their job to tell the people, hey, you should stick with it. It's good later on. But
like it seems, because like unlike movies. Because you can watch a movie for 2 hours and only have lost that and be like, well, it sucked, but it was only 2 hours. But most games are like, 10 hours plus. Yeah. And like you say, there's more games than there is time to play them. So that's why a lot of people...
I think there's also an investment not only in time, but in effort. Like learning a game these days is kind of I don't know, it feels a little more tiresome for me because it's not only like going right and jumping on stuff. It's more like a 2-hour tutorial and then finding out the mission structure and how to craft and how to ball.
Same for me. If I put a game down for more than 2 or 3 days, when I come back to it, I have to relearn everything.
Yeah. So what's the sort of consensus? Do you think?
I think it sort of depends on the type of game. I mean, if it's a story-based game, then I think you kind of have to finish it to get a proper, like The Last of Us or something like that, right? Like, I mean, you have to finish that game to really appreciate it, I think.
Yeah.
Some games come in a big chunk that you need to do the whole thing for it, but some of them are not as whole. Like, you can just know that you like or you don't like Devil May Cry or something because you like or don't like the combat.
But I think you can know that pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, and then there's some games too where it's like you get a better appreciation for it as it goes on, like Mercenary Kings. Like, I think every tactics game I've ever played, like Final Fantasy Tactics, I might have put a whole weekend in before I even knew what I was doing. Yeah. And then I had to just start over from scratch and then play it through. But sometimes a game gets better as it goes along. But
probably a lot of game also benefits from the opposite. Like, you only play 15 minutes and it's good. And if you'd have finished it, you wouldn't have liked it as much. Right?
Yeah, that's true. There's some games that are very sort of like beginning heavy, where it's just there to impress you, and then you can see like as it goes on, like they ran out of time.
Well, most big games actually
these days,
big company games like
AAA stuff.
AAA stuff. It's fun for the first like hour or so.
There's a name for that.
It's the same
front loading.
Front loading the games.
It's actually a really interesting question because I think I think games have changed, or the culture around games has changed so much in the industry in the last bunch of years that, like, when I first started playing games on the Commodore or on the NES or whatever, I mean, there were few enough games that if I got a game, that's what I was playing from, and I just had, like, it was a matter of pride to finish it. Yeah. And so I became really obsessive compulsive about wanting to finish every game that I started. And so even now, like years later, I feel really guilty if I don't finish a game.
You still cry at the thought of Ninja Gaiden 2.
No, I finished those. Come on, man. But there have been a bunch of games recently that I have not finished because of whatever reason. Because like there's other stuff. I've got a life and children and all that.
Yeah.
So
it's true too, though, because like if I know I'm not going to be able to finish a game or put the hours needed into buying it or playing it, I won't pick it up. Because even if it is good, because it's too daunting, it's like, I just don't have the investment for it.
Okay, so what is too daunting for you? You finished Pokemon in like 2 days.
Yeah, but I mean, that was, let's see,
Pokemon. I got my 3rd gym badge, by the way.
Oh, nice.
I'm back on the horse.
Back on the track, yeah.
I'm going to finish this one. I've never finished a Pokemon game.
Oh, it's, but see, like even Pokemon, that's a game where, like, I'll do that every now and again where, like, it's really like this big chunk of gaming culture missing from my landscape. So it's like I'll play a game even if it doesn't interest me, and that game did. But then there's other things where, like, same thing for GTA, same thing for God of War. These are games that were, coming up to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th sequel, and I hadn't even played them. So it's like I'll play one to have an appreciation for it and finish it because it's like now at least I have a full understanding of what one game is like. So
full understanding of how pretentious these games are.
Well, but sometimes you get surprises because, like, God of War, I actually pretty much had, it pretty much confirmed every suspicion I had about the game, and it was good. It was a good, solid game. Not for me, though. Yep. GTA, on the other hand, it's a game where it was a much larger investment, and it also surprisingly became a game where if I didn't stick with it, I would have not had as full an appreciation for it, because the game really takes, see, I can't even think of how to say it in English. Ça prend son sens. It
takes form.
It takes its meaning.
Yeah, the full meaning comes from having played like a lot of it. Like when you've like gone from different parts of each town, it's like, wow, this is like one big world.
Yes, and you're living the life of these characters.
Exactly. So that's a game where I think after I finished it, and it actually took even a few months after I'd put it down and I thought about it again, I'm like, that game was really cool.
Yeah.
So,
I had the same thing with Red Dead Redemption, where at first it was like, the systems are not that great, but once you really get into it and then you're hunting, like brigands and like saving people. Like it feels really good.
Yeah, and then there's times too where like in GTA, like you start off just by walking around, and one of the first things I think you can steal is like a bike. So you're just that much faster than walking, and then you steal a car, and then you can get that much better when you get to the point where you can start like stealing planes. You've actually covered so much like surface area by walking and riding that when you take off on a plane and you see the city from below, you're like, wow, like I know all of these places and I can fly over it.
You guys should see Justin's face right now.
Yeah.
He lights up. It's really adorable.
A child at Christmas.
But it's even better still because that game had like random soundtracks. And I think it was like just some David Bowie song. It was just like you couldn't have prepared it better if you tried. It was just
3,
2, 1. Yeah, it was pretty much that. And then you just see like your whole town that you spent hours in from like way up above.
Oh, video games. Bringing a smile to Justin's face.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Love it.
You have another question?
I don't.
That we can nail.
I don't.
Nailed it.
Yeah, you know what? I don't, but I do think we nailed it. So we should quit while we're ahead and stop and end this current episode for this week. So, friends, first, people, thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please, you can subscribe on iTunes and you can leave reviews for us on iTunes, which gives us more visibility and gets the podcast.
Otherwise, we'll stop doing it.
Yeah, we'll stop doing it. Although, if you hate it, don't try and do that for us to stop doing it, because we'll keep doing it. But tell a friend.
Yeah.
Write a letter to a friend. And
or
tell
your congressman.
Write a letter to Justin.
Write a letter to Justin.
Sure.
Well, tell a friend you hate it, and then you can have an argument with that friend, because he'll love it.
Exactly. There's something for everyone on this podcast. So,
what just happened? I don't even know.
Where can we find you?
It's the outro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dom, where can we find you on the internet?
I don't even know. No, at Dom2D on Twitter. And, you can see us on Twitch probably next week. We're gonna do a bit more twitching.
Justin?
We're not gonna do like...
We're gonna Twitch on Twitch.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it now? We're just gonna be twitching?
I guess. I don't know. I'm not hip.
That expression actually...
Streaming, sorry. All right.
Justin _Sear.
At Twitter.
At Twitter. Let's just make that the running gag.
All right, I'm going to try it this week. At JGS Boutin.
Is there an underscore between the two?
No. It's all in one word on Twitter. And also a blog, Boutin.blogspot.com.
You can see all of his old stuff on there, and it's pretty good.
It's getting pretty old.
It's getting pretty old, but it's pretty good.
I can't put anything new because of Mercenary Kings. I've done a shitload of stuff for Mercenary Kings, but it's all held back by the art book.
Yeah,
but it's coming out soon, right?
It's coming out. It should be coming out very soon. We're really excited.
In my fashion, as soon as it comes out, I'll make a 24 pages post, just everything
in one day
for Mercenary Kings. Yeah,
about how you're not happy with it, but it's still really good. Carl, where can we find you on the internet?
At Carl Kerschel on Twitter and Tumblr.
Excellent. Yeah. You can find me at Yannick Belzil on Twitter, and you can find Tribute Games at Tribute Games on Twitter. So if you talk to the account, it's me you're talking to. So
so be nice.
Be gentle.
Please be cool. Nice or be polite. You've been so far, but who knows? So thanks, guys, for listening to us, and you'll be listening to us again next week.
Yay!